Good afternoon, everybody. We're here on another episode of Sunday Dinner Podcast. I have a beautiful guest with me today, Miss Cassandra Whitlow. Let me tell you a little bit about Miss Cassandra Whitlow. She's a career coach, a recruiting expert, and an author. Everybody welcome Cassandra Whitlow.
Thank you very much, Travis.
How you doing today?
I'm great. I'm doing excellent.
That's good. So today we're here about your new book, Survival Guide for Unemployed, the essential needs for confident interviewing to land the perfect job. Can you tell us a little bit more about this book?
Well, Survival Guide for the Unemployed. That book is very timely. It was written this summer, and I would say, just think about it. A lot of people who are out of work, they felt like they were kind of dropped off into no man's land, if you will. And this book is basically to help them find their way. Because when you lose a job, it's like you're confused, you're lost, you don't know where to turn. And this book is to help people whenever they lose their job, when they're lost and confused on where to go for the practicals of how to land a job. Okay. So we start with this book talking about how to deal with your emotions, all the way to the practicals of what to do before, during, and after an interview, and even finishing up with a lot of motivation on, while you're out of work, because that's also important to stay in a positive space. So this book is really an ultimate guide to finding a job. It's the ultimate guide, the one-stop shop, if you will, to everything basically in the job search and how to land the perfect job.
Okay, nice, definitely. So what inspired you to write this book, especially during a time like this?
What inspired me to write this book is basically, of course, I've been a recruiting expert for about 20 years now. Started my career from IT to HR back in 2000. So it's been about 20 years I've been in this field, and I love recruiting and everything about it. I love career coaching and helping people, get into a great career space, basically where they find the next job, and just giving great advice on how to interview and how to stand out in an interview. And because of my love of that and mirroring that with, in March, April, and May, having all of these millions of people out of work, losing their jobs, applying. The more I saw this, 20 million people applying for unemployment, 30 million. And by the end of May, like by June 1st, it was over 40 million people applied for unemployment. And I was just like, my heart was just, bleeding. I said, I have got to do something. What can I do for that group of people? And my husband had been telling me for years, Cassandra, you need to write a book. You need to write a career book to help people. You're always giving advice, and everybody's always, benefiting from what you're saying. And I said, yeah, so I knew the good I needed to do, and I just didn't feel led to do it years ago. But then he mentioned it. He was like, I said, back in it was probably the beginning of May. He said, you should write that career book. And I was like, that's it. That's totally it, what I need to do to hit that population that I really want to target. That's already on my heart anyway, to help, unemployed. So I started feverishly writing the book, and just within 5-6 weeks, 20 years was just poured into this 132-page book. So it's an easy read, quick read, but it's stocked full of great information. I've had HR professionals read this book, and they were just like, Cassandra, you hit on all the points. In fact, one of them said she's going to start sending it to people who are terminated or laid off at her company. She's going to give them this book, so they can find their next opportunity. And, and I've had directors at companies read it and just like, you put so much in this book. I can't believe you're giving all this stuff away. And I was like, yeah, so the book, so that's what made me want to write the book, is just out of the passion for helping people find their next job.
Okay. So off of something you just said just now, so a lot of people don't know, or some people do know, I'm a recruiting expert and a career coach as well for veterans. Um, with everybody filing for unemployment and the stimulus check, some people are making now more off unemployment more than they have on a regular job. How do you try to reach out to those people that are comfortable with receiving $600-700 a week, which they was never making on a regular job? How do you reach out to them to try to get them back into the career field or their choice?
Well, that has been the past. Of course, today is October, and those not so much the stimulus checks, but the extra $600 on the unemployment that ended on July 31st. So
Okay.
as of August 1, whatever your state's employment rate is what people are getting now. So it's been over 2 months that they've been getting that kind of, I guess, that minuscule amount, if you will. But if you get a stimulus check, I know that's in the works for, that's in the works for a second stimulus check, but nobody knows if that's going to come, and if so, when it's going to come. That might be next year. So a lot of people kind of banking on that. If they are looking at that or extra money on unemployment, I would definitely say don't put all your eggs in that basket, because chances are it may or may not happen. And instead of keeping your career life in neutral, you should put it in drive and drive it forward, and not just, I'm going to keep it in neutral and see where the wind blows. If it blows me left or right or up or down, you don't want to do that. You want to be in control of your car. You want to be in drive and drive it forward. So you want to start looking for the job. You want to start, doing everything it takes. Like the book says, Survival Guide for Unemployed, like the book says, to get a job. So that's how I would advise that person or those people.
Okay, so I have another question. Like I said, we both in the same field. So I was trying to stick to the topic as much as I can, but when you start talking, it's like, okay, I got another question. So something else that I have ran into, a lot of companies are still furloughed. A lot of companies are not hiring. What do you tell those people that we trying to help find a job, but they're not as many jobs out there as available as it once was before the pandemic? What's your advice for that?
Well, my advice is always, even when you're working, you should be always open to other opportunities, as far as, keeping your resume up to date, keeping your eyes and ears open for opportunities, even if you're in an essential job, an essential type of industry. You still want to keep your options and your ears open, because nothing is guaranteed unless you own the company. That's the only way you can sit pretty, or you can sit, reassured and saying, okay, yes, I got this covered. And even then, you still have people who you rely on to keep your doors open. Because if your customers leave and flee, then you don't have a job either, because you're not an entrepreneur. So even as an entrepreneur, you always have to keep your skills sharp. You always have to keep, on top of the market, on top of social media, on top of your customers, what they want next and things like that. So that's what's going to keep you on edge and keep you engaged. And I would definitely give that same advice to that person who is, undecided, well, not undecided, but the person who is, not finding job opportunities right now. You want to still network. So you can still use this time to network with companies that you may be interested in case bottom falls out where you are now. You can just say, okay, well, I've networked with these 3 other people. I really like 2 out of the 3. Let me tap into them if your doors were to ever shut, for your job opportunity. So you always want to stay open, and you always want to be going for what's next as far as your career.
Networking is a big key of what I teach. A lot of people don't understand how networking works. A lot of people, I think more of the population that I deal with that does networking as far as job searching or career searching are the upper class, the more CEO management level that really understand. Like if you get somebody that's, working just a regular 9 to 5 because they're looking for a job, they really understand how far networking goes. Or if you're just beginning to work in the job field or job force, they don't understand how far networking goes, even before you apply for that position, how easier that makes it for you once you get to that position.
Oh yes, yes. Networking is a big deal. It's it could make or break you. Um,
Hmm.
Working within the right group, and people of all levels should look at some type of area where they can network. If you're currently working, you can still network through your um, affinity groups, your resource groups. They have women's groups, they have ethnic groups. They have all types of uh, what do you call affinity groups within these companies. And I would definitely advise people to join those networks and join those groups, because you're just going to really reach even further into other departments that you would never probably have had friends in those departments. That's if you're working. If you're not working, definitely tapping into LinkedIn and look at some of the people who work at the companies that you're interested in, and just
Hmm.
try to have a cup of coffee with them. You don't always have to be in a group of 50 people or more. You don't have to, um, this could just be by phone. You just say, hey, can I have 10 or 15 minutes of your time just to ask you a few questions about your field? And a lot of times people like to talk about themselves. so
Hmm.
so they'll usually, okay, well, I'll give you some time. And so yeah, you just learn all the more. So I always advise networking because it is key to possibly finding your next position or your promotion.
Definitely. Me being in the military and traveling all over the United States and living all over the United States, I didn't realize how big LinkedIn was until I lived in other areas. And then when I came down here and moved down here recently 3 years, like hardly nobody really knew about LinkedIn or was really using LinkedIn. A lot of people know how to use LinkedIn and use it to their advantage. So it's like when I talk to people, because up north, it was like, your business card pretty much was your LinkedIn. If you want to know about, you want to talk about me, hit me on my LinkedIn, like how people do Facebook here. Hit me on LinkedIn if trying to do anything professional. So it was a big shock for me that how many people didn't know about LinkedIn
Yeah. And you're saying a
when I
lot
moved
of
down
the
here.
military people didn't know that of LinkedIn.
Some a lot of the military people that did know were officers. I was an officer, so I was a lieutenant in the military. So yeah, we was trained. We was groomed, prepared, knowing for career wise after the military. But a lot of the enlisted people had no idea, and that's the majority of my target audience was enlisted. My soldiers that was coming in or leaving out was helping them with their career path outside of post military.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely a critical first step is
Hmm.
getting a created LinkedIn profile. And so, yeah, that should definitely be a gap that's if you will, or that's closed. Is that
Hmm.
critical first step of LinkedIn, because that is the very first business step you're going to take into the civilian world, if you will.
All right. Next question. How has the pandemic helped or hindered you when writing survival guide for unemployed?
Oddly, excuse me, oddly enough, so funny I would cough at that question. Wow. So oddly enough, I would say the pandemic has helped me a lot with this, with writing this book. Because as of January 1st, 2020, I had
Hmm.
no idea that I would be writing my very first career book. I had no idea. January was normal, February was normal, and then the middle of March hit, and it was absolutely abnormal. So
Hmm.
with that, life just changed. The spring was just everybody was forced to be hunkered down in their homes with during quarantine, and it was just I would say dark. It was a dark time in the sense of wow, it just seemed like the world just became small, and your home was your world, and because of that, exclusive time to be inward, and everybody working from home, and everything was at home. I was able to focus enough to write this book. And over the summer months, because I actually wrote this in June and July, so that's the heart of the summer when we actually had summer plans. We were going to go to Miami, we were going to go to New York, and all these places just got shut down. And we were just like, okay. And so it was like it was made for me to write this book during the summer months because of cancer plans and cancer guest visitations, to my home. I had the time and I just took it to my advantage in the mornings and the evenings, especially the weekends, and just wrote the book. And so the pandemic truly, definitely helped.
All right, definitely. I'm gonna piggyback off of something you said. Me and a lot of my mentors talk, and we talk in private, and we all have said the same thing. Besides how the pandemic affected our lives between 2020 and between last year, all of us being entrepreneurs and business owners, and doing the career field that we do, it was like, how has the pandemic affected your life? And besides the people getting sick, besides the people dying, besides the Black Lives Matter movement, bless you, besides the Black Lives Matter movement, all that was devastating. But the rest of 2020 outside of that has probably been my best year yet. I had so much time to focus on me, really innovate me. That's why I love this book and what you do, because if you really understand how to maneuver and how to navigate through a career, you can really use this time because everything's shut down. It's not like you go on trips, like you on plans. It's not like you hindered because most people are working from home if they're not unemployed already, or if they are essential workers. They have so much other time, free time, to reinvent themselves, make themselves better. A lot of people are not taking advantage of this time. This has been my best year yet,
Yes.
all around, because I have so much time to focus on me.
Yes, definitely. And I mean that's pivotal. And just having the time for trainings,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of what do you call it? Like the conventions and organizations, they're actually either discounting or making their conventions free because it's virtual now. So they're just like,
Mm-hmm.
well, spending that $125, just give a donation. We're okay with that, because it's virtual.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, wow, I even found, conventions that I wasn't, able to go to because of time or because of money or the distance because it's in California. And it's like, okay, they're discounting it to a point where it's virtual. So so a lot of that is yes, to self-develop. This is the time to do it, because if you really tap into it, you can grow yourself exponentially. And intellectual capital is real, is key
It is.
to
Mm-hmm.
stand on top of things. So I commend you for making this a great year, because this could also be a year where people just idle, where they do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm just gonna, slump into whatever is going on around me. It's like, no, you have to use this time to make a better you, to make better choices. And I commend you for it. And yes, outside of all the social unrest and just the political ugliness, it's like this really is a time to be more and to do more.
And definitely, and that goes back to your book. Like I said, both of us being in the same career field as recruit experts and career coaches, I don't want to toot my own horn, but it's like it's hard for us not to have a job. Once you know how to navigate, once you know how to network, and once you know how to keep reinventing yourself and staying on top, it's hard for you to stay unemployed if you do get unemployed at all. To stay unemployed that long, because now you know the key. Now you know what business is looking for. You know what hiring manager is looking for. You know what recruiters are looking for. You know how to write your resume. You know what words to put in the resume. You know the keyword search. We can go on and on forever about this, but it's like me and my family talked about it so much. That what kind of made me teach it, because it was like once you learn it, it's like you got to go to the key, intellect. You got to go to the key, and that's why this book is so important, because it will be less stress in your life if you know how to keep moving forward.
Yes, and that's so true. That's the very, very, very first quote that I put in the book. Preparedness takes you from stressed to success.
Mm-hmm.
Because people, and here it is right here. So preparedness takes you from stress to success. And so yeah, if you're prepared, if you're ready, you will be successful. You will land the job. And when I say the perfect job, because people are like, how are you going to help me find the perfect job? Well, if you do the perfect company search on the jobs and the companies that you're interested in, then you make sure it is perfect. Because perfect to me means it's the mission. You're in line with the company's mission. You're in line with the company's values, with what they stand for, as well as your own. So if that meshes together, then that's the company for you. That makes it perfect for you because it's not always going to be perfect for everyone. It's not a one size fits all, for people. So what works for you should work for you, and that's going to be the perfect job, for you.
Mm-hmm. So is this book more like a self-help and teaching you how to fish type book? Like once they read your book, when they learn how to do it themselves, or do they still need to go to outside sources after they read the book?
Once they read this book, this is truly a how-to guide, like the ultimate how-to guide. If you're unemployed, let's say, God forbid, twice in a year, if you pick this book up once, this will help show you how to get a job for a lifetime. It's kind of like, give somebody something to eat. You feed them that one meal, but if you teach them how to cook, then they'll be fed for life. And that's what this book is. Once they read this book, it's going to give them so many practicals, so much advice that if you were unemployed, 8 months down the line, 2 years down the line, and just say, wow. And you might want to go back to it just like a recruiting Bible, if you will, or a survival guide. Sometimes you have to go back to it just to get a refresher. Chapter 10 is all about staying motivated. So people who read chapter 10, they may want to read it again whenever they get unemployed and say, you know what, I need to be motivated. Let me read chapter 10 again. And chapter 9 has resources. So you're getting all the, national resources, free and very low cost type of resources for people who are job seekers. So this book is good to have on your shelf. You want to buy the book.
Definitely. I know we can't repeat it enough. It's like, I don't know if it's just me, and maybe you can answer this as well. It's like almost once you know how to fish, like almost like actually once you read your book, and you don't have to be a career coach or recruiter expert, but it's like you never stop seeking. It's almost like you kind of set up for the next promotion, kind of setting yourself up for the next job just in case this happened. It was like, oh no, I'm already on point. Like it's not a gap. It's like you keep moving. It's not like, okay, you read this book, oh, you get your job, and then you're done. It almost teaches you how to keep going.
Yes. So with this book, whether you're employed or unemployed, this book will help, because for people who are employed, usually you're looking for a promotion after so many months or years. So this book has 20 questions on what the managers could ask you as far as interview questions. And if you've been in your job for 3 years, you're working, but man, I don't really know or remember the type of questions managers ask. So let me read this book and get some of the questions on what they ask. I also list 10 questions that's smart questions for candidates to ask. So you can definitely refresh on that and say, well, let me ask some of these questions when I'm going for my internal promotion, or if I'm looking for another job with a different company. How do I go out and do this? And I also give insider advice on how to beat the competition. So whether you're internal or external, you're going to have competition. And these days, very stiff, because now you're competing with virtual folks. So you have it all, you coming at you from all angles. So with that, that's going to help you know how to stand out amongst the competition just by having the recruiter inside secrets that we know, other people don't know. We know how it can really help them, because we're like in a tennis match, as career coaches, or especially as recruiters. We're like in a tennis match, so we know what the candidate want, and we know what the hiring manager want, and we stand right there in the middle and kind of see the, not really the tug of war, but we see the marriage happening, if you will, the courting stage. So it can get to the marriage state of I want to hire you, and that's not an easy process if you don't know how to navigate it.
It can be very scary if you don't know how to navigate it, especially if you have kids, family, mortgage, bills like the rest of the world has.
Yeah.
And you trying to figure that out and still trying to keep your bills on, it's very scary. And that's what I kind of wanted to point to, because I know when some people read the title, Survivor Guide for Unemployed, I don't want them to think it's just for people that's unemployed. No, if you have a job and you're trying to advance to the next level, read it too. If you're trying to beat the competition, read it too. It's just not for unemployed people. And I just wanted to make that clear to the viewers that it's not just for people that's unemployed. Yes. It's a great read for everybody to advance.
All of the above, truly.
I'm gonna get back on topic. I'm sorry. I tell you, we both in the same field, so it's like I could pick your brain. I could pick your brain forever. If you could tell, thank you. If you could tell your younger self, writing self, anything, what would it be?
The two things that I would tell my younger author self if I had a chance.
One question, because you've written other books before, right? This is not your first book.
Yes.
Okay, so I stand corrected. Your younger writing self, yes.
This is my third book, but this is my very first career book.
Okay.
And the other two, they're encouragement books, which is helpful for these days too. One is Espresso for the Soul, and the other one is You Don't Need Permission to Be Great, Go on the Strength You Have. So both are excellent. But with all three of the books, but especially with this one, I would say to make sure you're passionate about the message and that you mitigate or eliminate distractions. And what I mean by that is you want to be passionate about the message that you're or the book that you're writing, because if you have to dedicate so many hours and days and weeks and months to this craft, you want to be passionate about it, because otherwise you can go from just being boring, feeling bored by writing it and it being a boring piece. So you want to make sure you have a passion for it, and then mitigate distractions. You can't eliminate all distractions, but if you can mitigate it and say, okay, I know that my home is usually active about 11:30-ish. Okay, so from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m., I'm just going to use that time to write. That's what I had to do. I had to wake up early, and I had to, use this time to dedicate to writing, or stay up a little later. Once my son was to bed, I'm going to give a good 2 hours today, or the weekends. That was my time, was the weekends, because, my husband and son went off and, did some things sometimes, throwing the football or whatever. I'm like, okay, I have 4 hours. Let me use that time, and if I was hanging out with my son, I would dedicate all the time with him. But whenever I was away, I just made the most of the time. But I would definitely say to eliminate as many distractions as possible, because and any writer would tell you that. Some writers like go away for a weekend or go away for a week, just leave the family all together. It's like days and they just write it up and then come back. It's like, wow, okay, to each his own. but that's definitely, that would be my advice to my younger self.
That you can use that in so many different, not just even writing. Like I've done that. Like I got my master's degree online, so I worked night shift to complete my master's degree, because at night I was able to get stuff done. Everybody's asleep. It pretty much eliminated all distractions for me. And then once I completed my master's, I came back to morning shift or a day person. So I mean, like I said, that works with a lot of stuff. If people can learn how to maneuver where they're at in their life and find out how, what's best, especially like I said, right now, it shouldn't be any distractions right now, besides family, I think the biggest thing right now, I did a podcast probably 2 podcasts ago with a teacher, educator, and he was like, families working from home and also your kids online virtual schooling. So that's probably the hardest thing right now that you're going through, unless you unemployed and looking for a job. So it's like, it shouldn't be too many other distractions outside of that. And once you figure out how to maneuver around that, I'm not saying it's going to be easy for everybody. I'm definitely not going to say that. But if you definitely can eliminate a lot of distractions, you will be able to accomplish a lot.
Yes.
And a lot faster than you think you could.
Say that again?
I said, and a lot faster than you think you could. If you really just dedicate yourself to it.
Yeah,
Take some time out.
I totally agree with that.
And that takes discipline. But I'm military, so I'm like I said, I'm not just gonna talk about me because but I'm military.
But congratulations on finishing your master's. That's a big deal, and
thank you.
For sure, and it definitely takes a lot of dedication and focus, to do something like that. So. Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm still in school now, furthering my education. Oh, I'm taking advantage of this time. I'm definitely taking advantage of this time.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. All right, so the last section is the promotional section. How can people get in contact with you? How can they follow you? How can they find your books? How can they get offer your services? All this will be listed in the bio section below. So even if you say it now, don't have to worry about if people got it because it will be listed. All your information will be listed in the comment section along with your books as well.
Perfect. Well, you can always definitely go to my website, CassandraWhitlow.com. That's CassandrawHitlow.com. And on there, I have a blog. You can also have a book tab. You can click on books, click on that for purchase. I also give my services, basically, give career coaching. It's more like small group career coaching. So if you have a small group at your church or in your neighborhood, or just know of some people who, a group of you who need that help, go for it. Contact me on my website. And I'm also on Instagram, Cassandra.Whitlow, at Cassandra.Whitlow.
Okay.
And my book is actually on Amazon. So if you go to Amazon.com and put in the book search for Survival Guide for the Unemployed, you see my book there. I think I'm one of the top 2, so that's good. But
that's good.
5-star rated book. I'm so proud of all the reviews that are on there, and just hope it keep on coming. But so the future project is online course with Udemy.com. So I plan to start doing that by the end of the month. Start getting some online courses, and that'll be for job searching, as well as a section will be on there. A different training would be on there for parents, because a lot of parents have been tapping into me and asking me, how can I help my adult child, who find their career, especially during this pandemic. They're nervous. They're just like, I don't know if they're ever going to get a job. And so a lot of this training is kind of helping them to help their young adult child.
Okay. Before I let you go, you have 2 more books. Do you mind speaking on those 2 real quick, briefly? The other 2 books that you have? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so You Don't Need Permission to Be Great. That book, that was my very first one that I felt like God put on my heart to write. It was 4:38 a.m. one morning about 9 years ago. And it was just heavy on my heart that a lot of people, God has sent a message to people through whatever channel you wish. But a lot of people know they have a calling, they have a heaviness on their heart to do something. And a lot of times people ask all these people, they ask 15, 20 people to get their yes from them before they take the first step in trying to do whatever that thing is. And I wrote this book, You Don't Need Permission to Be Great. It's like, you don't need to ask 50 people to hear your yeses in order to do what God has put on your heart to do anyway. Just go in the strength you have. And that's the subtitle of the book, Go in the Strength You Have. Kind of when the angel told Gideon, to go in the strength he had to beat the army, or to fight the army so he could beat them. But, but he was afraid. And a lot of times we do that is because we're afraid. That's why we want to ask all these people so we can maybe get enough no's to say, see, I shouldn't do it. And it's like, no, God put on your heart to do it, do it. So that's very passionate about that book.
Okay.
That's the first one. The other one, Espresso for the Soul. 31 Days of Encouragement for Life and Life Advice. With that particular book, it's 31 phrases, if you will, or quotes or affirmations, or however you want to put it. It just kind of gives a lesson for each one. The very first one is, I think, be in the now, not in the next. Because a lot of people, they're not in the now. They're in what's next, what's next, in the sense of never being present where they are now. And I know right now it's a big deal, be in the next, you want the next step and just all of that. And that much is good because you want to plan for your next. But when you're spending time with family and friends, like we are now during the pandemic and forced to be home, when you're home, you should be present. You should be with the ones you love. You should give all of you to whatever you're doing now and not, pushing past and thinking for the next moment when you should be enjoying the moment you have right now. Because this time is going to pass. This pandemic is over, and all it's going to be is a memory, just like 9/11 is now. But now it's just a memory. So we are going to get past this. We are going to move past all of this, and we're still going to have our lives to live. So that's why, being prepared on how to find a job now and in the future, is important. But those are my other two books that I'm very proud of as well. And I was able to have in-person book launches for those, but 9 years ago. But this year I had a virtual book launch for this career book, the Survival Guide for the Unemployed. So you can go to my Facebook page and actually hear this, running on there as well if you want to see what that what the virtual book launch party was.
Okay, and your Facebook page is Cassandra Whitlow?
Yes, it's Cassandra Elaine Whitlow is my
Cassandra Elaine. Okay.
You see, it was about 40 minutes on the 29th of September, right before the first date. It was so it made for a fun evening, but it was a lot of fun and a lot of information. But yes, so thank you for allowing me to speak about those as well.
Thank you for joining. Thank you for being a wonderful host, a wonderful guest, and allowing me to have an interview with you and enlightening so many people on how to maneuver and navigate during the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a lot of fun, and get the book.